Welcome to Messier Mantra. I'm your host, Mike Messier. On this episode, we have a very special guest. Her name is Judith Blacquier. Did I say that right? I put a little flair to it.
Yes, wonderful.
Okay,
Thank
and Judith, we're describing you as your profession.
A healing arts practitioner.
I love that. And the reason why I love it is because it's very descriptive. You and I met about 3 months ago at a place called The Hive, which is in South County, Rhode Island. It's kind of like a business, very progressive business environment. And we had a special guest there, and that guest was you, Judith. Mm-hmm. And you brought your practice and your insights. And really, I think everybody there was pretty moved that day. So just to fill people in, what did you do with our group there at the Hive that day that caught my attention?
Well, I shared about my company, Synchronicity and Company, and I talked about the way that company came about. It's sort of a paradox that we flow in universal life force energy, and it flows in us at each chakra. So that's what I work on as a healing arts practitioner. We sort of deal with that kind of balance between the outer world and the inner world, the invisible world and the visible world. So it's sort of a shamanic work, if you're familiar with shamanism.
I want you to tell me more about it, because the thing is, I might know, I might not know, but someone in the audience, that we're watching here at CConk and throughout our Facebook and social media world, they might say, what is shamanistic? So tell me more about that.
What is shamanism?
Yeah.
Well, I was not that familiar with shamanism. I grew up Presbyterian, going to church every Sunday, but I was always connected to what I thought was the divine, and what I was taught was the divine. I'd go out at night and look up at the stars. In the winter, I'd be under a snow-covered tree just listening to silence.
Wow.
And that was as a little kid,
Right.
I was really like, wow, I felt the presence of something, whether it was me or something greater than me, but I was always connected to that.
Yes.
But as I got older, the church sort of defined that for me in such a way that there were so many rules.
Right.
And it was always seemed like I was not good enough. I think as a child, I connected to it as an unconditionally loving energy.
Right.
So when I was 40, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And I had a dream that I needed to see a medicine woman.
Okay.
And I was living on the vineyard at the time. And I told my acupuncturist that I had this dream that I needed to see a medicine woman. And she said, well, this medicine man is coming to the vineyard this weekend, and he only comes once a year. So I went.
Yes.
And that's sort of the synchronicity part of it.
Right.
That synchronicity sort of happens. It's not planned, but it's like, oh, I had this dream to see a medicine woman, and a medicine man is coming.
Yep.
A medicine person is, for our culture, we don't really have medicine people. We have psychiatrists, psychologists, we have medical doctors, we have clergy, pastors, priests. The definition of a medicine person or shaman is someone who bridges between the visible world and the invisible world of spirit and soul.
Right.
So just having a diagnosis of ovarian cancer, and my oncologist saying if the type that cancer I had came back, it was terminal.
Wow.
So I was like, how do I live with this? I saw a counselor, and it was really hard walking around with that knowledge that, wow, if this comes back, it's terminal.
Right.
Then I had that dream to see a medicine woman, and found out this person was coming, and I started working with him, and it was the only thing that really spoke to me about the inner world, connecting the outer world with the inner world. And I went on to train as a breathwork practitioner. I trained in authentic movement. I traveled to South America, Europe, Hawaii, California, training in all this work to just heal myself.
Right.
And then I found out, wow, this is my work. At some point it sort of transitioned to, wow, I'm not just participating, receiving this work, I can offer this work. And it's sort of like the gift of cancer, so to speak.
Interesting. Are you a fan of Wayne Dyer at all, Dr. Wayne Dyer?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I was listening to some of his stuff. He suffered from lymphomia. I'm not even saying that right. Lymphomia.
Right. Yeah.
But
yeah.
he kind of had a similar journey with that a little bit, recently, the last 5 or 6 years.
Although he was pretty enlightened beforehand, wasn't he? I mean, he was on this path for a long time, but
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's what I find the similarity would be that he took this, what would alarm, and I'm sure it alarmed you too, we're all human, but something that's very alarming, very distressing, nervous energy, but you turn it into such a positive, beautiful thing that's really inspiring and it's going to help so many people. You mentioned a few things, and if you could break it down for the audience. The breathing was the first thing you mentioned. And then I think there was some type of stretching, the second thing.
Authentic movement.
Right. Why don't you tell me about both of those?
Okay. I'd love to talk about this. Let's see, breath work. What did I do first? I guess first I trained in authentic movement.
Okay.
And turns out authentic movement is quite similar to the shamanic process. So maybe I'll talk about that both.
Sure.
Part of the shamanic process of going between the visible and invisible world is kind of, I describe it, or it can be described as the caterpillar transforming into a butterfly.
Right.
It goes into the cocoon and it actually goes into a formless state. It doesn't stay in form as a caterpillar. It actually goes into formlessness, like a liquid state.
Right.
And that actually is comparable to a shamanic death. Have you heard of shamanic death, where in order to transform, and Ruiz talks about it in the Four Agreements.
Okay.
Do you know the Four Agreements
tell me
with
more.
The man from Peru that
You gotta
wrote the
tell me.
book?
Yeah.
Well, I think he's a Toltec.
Okay.
Is his heritage, and he writes about this sort of transformation, and he describes it as if you're trying to transform something or heal or change, that it's really so time-consuming and painstakingly difficult to transform an issue, say similar to the caterpillar trying to transform into a butterfly. It doesn't go like the caterpillar eyes don't become butterfly eyes. The quickest way to transform is to allow everything to sort of melt down, to die, and then be reborn.
Like a phoenix almost.
Like the phoenix. And it's also spoken about in religions, lest ye be reborn, you cannot enter the kingdom of God.
Right.
But anyway, so back to authentic movement. Authentic movement, in a sense, is similar to that transformative process, in that in authentic movement, it's taught, actually, I studied it at Hampshire College.
Oh, nice.
I did a little summer intensive there. But the idea is that you close your eyes, you still your body, and you don't move until your body wants to move, as opposed to, usually we move like we think, I want to reach for this book.
Yeah.
And so we move.
Right.
In authentic movement, you don't do that. You wait until actually something within you, within your body wants to move. And you kind of access this place where you're being moved.
Right.
Rather than you're moving. And that has kind of informed me in my work, because one of the things that we're doing in shamanic healing is we're getting underneath the thinking mind. Because the
Into
thinking
the
mind, yes,
Wow.
well, the thinking mind kind of keeps everything, just sort of redoes what is known.
Right.
The thinking mind works off of the finite, what is known. When you get underneath the thinking mind, you access the infinite.
Wow.
So in authentic movement, you're really accessing that divine, infinite, higher self. And it's similar to hypnosis and all, it's just like layered and layered and layered.
The authentic movement sounds pretty interesting, because, even when you were initially describing it, and I'm a pretty open-minded person, I think I am anyway, and but it's almost like, wow, that's scary. You know, like that's a challenge to like say, okay, I'm going to close my eyes and allow my body to do its thing without saying, okay, raise your fingertips to make it, you know what I mean? Like even just now, just trying it for a split second, it's like because we're so conditioned, we're all control freaks. You know, we're all control freaks, it seems. We all want to control, micromanage. You know, the industry that I'm in, the entertainment business, all types of control freaks, you know, whether it's the director or the writer, you know. So I can see, and those are creative people too, you know, so I can see where this authentic movement is so powerful. And it sounds simple, but it's not. Because in my opinion, what's not simple is our preconditioned way of going against it before we even try it.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, anything else about authentic movement, or 'cause that's pretty interesting.
No, but what you were, I'm going to get a little drink. What you were just saying is reminds me. Let me see. When I was with a friend on last Friday, thinking about how I was going to share about my work. How would I explain it? And we're sitting in this garden, an azalea garden, we were under rhododendrons.
Okay.
And we're sitting having a picnic, and along on the trail come these little preschool 3-year-olds.
Yep.
And they're with their preschool teacher, and you know they're pretending it's a jungle.
Right.
And it's like kids just are present in the moment.
Right.
You know, they experience life. They're not like analyzing, judging everything.
Right.
You know, they're just pretty authentic.
Yeah.
And which leads me to talk about the breathwork training.
Yep.
In the sort of the premise of the breathwork training I did is that every feeling fully felt leads to bliss. So what happens is that feelings come that we're either overwhelmed by or shamed.
Right.
You know, like don't cry, don't be mad, we
Yeah.
say to children. And then those feelings just don't get felt.
Wow.
They get kind of locked down. Squashed. And it's actually the breath that locks it down. So if I'm having an emotion and I don't want to feel it, if I stop breathing or breathe shallowly, then I can basically kind of stop that emotion. So my work besides doing the authentic movement, my work in healing, finding healing for myself, was to train in breath work, do breath work, and then train as a breathwork practitioner. Breathwork is just sort of knowing how to breathe through emotions, and but it's difficult when one is on their own and something scary's coming up. So that's why we have breathwork practitioners who kind of guide us through something that might be blocked in us, some issue that we might be having difficulty with, and they keep us breathing. And if you keep breathing as emotions are coming up, they actually transform. And you kind of go through the tunnel and come out the other side transformed, energized, informed.
By my
It's very
recollection,
cool.
was the breath work, what you brought to the Hive when I met you? Was that because you had the bell?
Yeah.
that
That was a
brought-
little inner journey that we did.
Tell me about that now. We all types of good stuff.
Yeah, there's
Inner
all
journey.
sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
The inner journey that I offer is just sort of a taste of where we're going in a private session or group workshop. As I said before, it's like, and you know, again, to quote the Bible, even though I'm talking about, in a sense, shamanism.
Sure.
But all these things in the Bible are actually, if you take them at what they're saying, it's really can be interpreted many different ways. But in the Bible, it says we live and have our very being within the divine.
Yep.
So it's almost like, paradoxically, we're flowing within the divine, within universal life force energy. It's greater than us.
Right.
and then paradoxically, it flows in us at each chakra. So
You've got to explain
Yeah.
a little bit about the chakra, because even for myself, it's one of those terms for a lot of people, I think, have heard chakra, and then you put, I think people, when they don't know what something really is, we as individuals or Americans, whatever, put some type of thing on it. We chakra is some type of new age thing, or it's like yoga, like all this stuff gets compartmentalized for the, John or Jane Q public that don't want to explore. But for those that are watching the show that do want to know, what's a chakra?
What's a chakra? Well, I guess we have many, many chakras, but there are 7 fundamental chakras. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The root chakra, the second chakra, third chakra, heart chakra, throat chakra, third eye chakra, crown chakra. There's colors associated with it.
Yeah.
Can I mention
Sure.
people's names?
Yeah.
I remember years and years ago listening to a video that Shirley MacLaine had put out on chakras.
Right.
And chakra meditations and connecting to spirit guides. And
Yes.
so it's sort of part of the issue for me in talking about my work is I've been doing this for so long.
Right.
And in this world, I became a Reiki practitioner in 1998.
Yep.
Diagnosed with ovarian cancer at 2002, and then started working with this medicine person. And so I've been in it for a while,
Right.
and I just talk about this stuff like everybody knows and is on the same page. And
Right.
I think that's one of the difficulties in what I offer.
Yes.
Because people look at me like, what is it that what is it that you offer us? What are you
Right.
talking about? What's your healing work?
So many people are in that, not to stereotype, but the 9-to-5 conundrum, or cubicle slave, whatever you want to call it, where you wake up, you go to work, you hit that thing, and before you know it, the day is over.
Yeah.
And you might have had 2 or 3 hours watching TV at night or something, and some type of escapism entertainment, with your cable TV. But a lot of people, unfortunately, are not exploring life. They're missing out on all the things that you offer, and that all these, I would say, enlightened journeys that you take and other people take and explore. A lot of people aren't. So just trying to open it up a little bit to them. So
the other that reminds me, as you're sharing about that, is that in a sense, it's like there's the physical world, the visible world, and then the invisible world of spirit and soul. And so how do you access that?
Right.
It's like, so there is we can all sort of say, we know that doctors are healers in a sense, but they're really assisting people to access their own healing. A
Right.
doctor will set a broken arm, but it's the own person's body that's healing them, actually.
Okay. Yep.
So similarly, in the work that I offer, I'm actually just assisting a person to heal themselves.
Right.
But it's more on an energetic than a physical level, although it can have an influence on the physical level. But it's like really, the idea is that there's a physical world and an energetic world that's existing at the same time.
Yeah.
It's all here.
Right.
And science, quantum physics, it's like it's all vibration.
Yeah.
It's all waves. My dad was an electronic, what was he? An electronic engineer, and studying, he had an oscilloscope with measuring the waves, the light waves, he had tuning forks and prisms with full spectrum light and colors. And so it's almost like, it's interesting how we sort of follow in our parents' footsteps without knowing it.
Yeah.
But his work was all about the same work as my work, except it was on the physical level that he was studying the vibration.
Right.
And in a sense, I work with vibration energetically.
For the human condition,
Yes.
if we can phrase
Yes.
it that way.
Yes.
One thing I find, as we were talking here, I find that a lot of people, some people that I know in my daily existence here, will kind of scoff at, I went to a yoga class, yoga, et cetera, you know what I mean? Like that type of thing, or scoff at such and such, but they're watching their cable TV and the first show they want to watch is Ghost Hunters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this strange paradox, it seems, with a lot of people in society where they'll scoff at things that could be healing, enjoyable, therapeutic, that may not follow the traditional things for them, for their own traditions. But for some reason, if you put on a scary movie that has some type of occult theme, or you put on the Ghost Hunters program or something like that, then that same person is all over it. And so it seems like even among creative types, or even people open to other people's creativity, there's prejudices and there's discrepancies, and you know what I mean? It's kind of intrigues me there.
Yep.
So.
Yep. What? Just mentioning yoga is really key. But then something else you said I wanted to talk about, but I'll just jump in with the yoga
Sure.
piece. Yoga is a great way to talk about the work that I offer.
Yes.
Because in yoga, it's all about the more that you can root and ground, actually, the taller you can become.
Right.
And it's like the more grounded you are, the higher you go.
Right.
Obviously, there's the tree pose
Right.
in yoga.
Yeah, that's when you put one foot on the other foot,
Right.
on the leg.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
You're balancing on one foot,
Right.
and you're. And when you balance on one foot, then you're really having to root with that other foot.
Yeah.
Or the one that's on the ground, and it just sort of, the energy's going like that.
Right.
So yoga is really about balance, but that's a really good sort of segue into the way that I work.
Yep.
Because energetically, when I work with a person, we experience, or they experience, energetic roots going down through the bottom of their feet.
Right.
And the base of their spine. Because we're like trees.
Right.
And energetically, the roots go down. They're not seen.
Yes.
And that's the invisible world in a sense.
Yep.
And we don't live down there in our roots. We don't live there. We live up in our branches.
Yes.
But we do need our roots down in the dark, fertile soil
Wow.
of Mother Earth.
Yeah.
So that also touches on a lot of different things, because in our culture and society, darkness is bad.
Right.
The earth is, just to be used
Yeah.
or utilized, and the feminine is seen as less than. So it's almost like if we're almost like trees, we are not actually getting the nourishment that we need to grow and to do all the things that we're here to do.
We only have about a minute left.
Oh yeah.
On this episode, we're going to have you back in another episode. I want to make a quick point that even you mentioned the trees, even people, as human beings, for their bodies, don't drink enough water. Talk about a deprivation. If you don't have those 64 ounces a day or 100, whatever it is that would be healthy for the individual,
Yeah.
drink enough water, you're really just dried out, moody, not getting the proper fluids in your system. We have just about 40 seconds left.
Or not getting enough light.
Yeah,
like
vitamin.
they keep taking away the recess and the things for children, when actually, if they could just get outside.
Yeah, and they'd be
and,
happier kids. But I want to end on a good note on this episode. We're going to go back on a soon episode, another episode real soon. So Judith, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank
you.
you. Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Mike.
We'll be back on a future episode with our great friend Judith, and we want to thank you for watching this episode of Messier Mantra.